Hello and welcome to the Collective Conspiracy Show. It's a late one this week. We're on a Thursday. Had to postpone the Monday, but that's not a problem. And Dave Hodrien is our guest tonight. So Dave's going to come on, chairman of BUFOG, the Birmingham UFO Group. He came on the show way back when, I think probably my second or third show early last year. And we're going to talk about disclosure, which is happening slowly at the moment, and he's got an exclusive UFO case to discuss as well. So it's going to be quite good. I hope you're all doing well and keeping safe. Thank you for tuning in as always. But without further ado, we're going to bring Dave on. Hello, Dave.
Hi, evening, Kieran. How you doing?
You all right? Yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks for coming on.
Great to be back.
I've been meaning to get you on for a while. I know you've been a busy guy lately with a lot of stuff going on, which we'll talk about during the show, obviously.
Sure.
For those watching, please, as always, just leave us questions. It's interactive. I'll bring them up on the screen. If you've got any questions for Dave or me, bring them up. Yes, Martin, keeping safe. I know what you're like with knives and things like that if your missus lets you in the kitchen, so... I wasn't referring to anything else, Martin. You know, just be safe. So, Dave, disclosure. Recently, everybody's been kind of looking one way, and that's all been at COVID.
Yes.
And everyone's distracted. And while that's been going on, we've had little videos released. We've had little drip feeding, I would call it, of disclosure. Do you think that's being done on purpose while everybody's distracted?
I think possibly. I think the timing of it all seems a bit. It's very interesting. Now, obviously, if we talk about the release of the videos, the Pentagon emissions. Now, they originally were aired in late 2017. One of the videos had actually been online for a number of years before that, but people had sort of largely ignored it. And then later on, they went back to look at it. The other two videos that came out through AATIP, Advanced Aerospace Identification Threat Identification Program, they were new videos that had not been seen before. They've now identified where those videos came from. But when they first came out in 2017, they hit the internet, and there was all sorts of opinions on them. Of course, everybody was like, "Are they real? Aren't they real? Are they just CGI fakes that somebody's just put together with no time at all?" Now, very interesting videos. Of course, many of your listeners will have seen those videos. Very interesting because they were gun camera, infrared camera footage captured from military jets. I was certainly impressed with them, even from the early days and everything. Now, of course, none of these videos show craft up close and personal. You know, they're not like right next to the camera or anything, and that's because these objects most of the time don't present themselves in that manner. They're usually seen at a distance like that. And but the maneuvering capabilities and aspects of those videos that have been confirmed since, and the pilots' reactions to the objects. And we're talking about trained observers here. We're talking about trained U.S. Navy pilots. They know what they're doing. Yeah, these guys are, very, very intelligent people, and they're capturing these objects. And just the sheer way that they react to them shows that there's something very, very unusual. But when you cross that with the speeds seen and the apparent movements observed on those videos, absolutely phenomenal. Now, what went on behind the scenes was AATIP. They continued to investigate these videos and look into them in great detail. Now, they came out in late 2017. Yeah. Now, in April 2020, the Pentagon officially confirmed that these videos were authentic. Yeah, and that they were unidentified. So they directly said that not only are they real videos, but also they can't identify the objects in them. That's a massive statement to make, yeah? Now, it made waves in America more than it did in the UK and other countries. And one of the reasons for that is, of course, as you say, we were all distracted. It's in the middle of lockdown. We've got major things going on. And it's very, very interesting that they should acknowledge the authenticity of these videos at the same time. Now, some people may say that's just coincidence. But is it,
But how long have they had? So these videos were several years old.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They could have acknowledged them within a week of those videos being seen, even within a year, and it wouldn't have fallen during a pandemic.
Exactly.
For me, it's more than coincidence. It's been done on purpose.
Yes. Absolutely, and that's very interesting. It's almost like they're trying to get the information out there, but they're trying to kind of dumb it down so it just flows along with everything else that's going on. Now, of course, right now we're looking forward to this new report that's going to be coming out from the intelligence agencies in the States, and that was a request from a contractor, just essentially just for the intelligence agencies, the CIA, etc., to come out with what they know about UAPs, an unclassified, apparently completely unclassified document. Now we can go into what I feel that may or may not contain, but obviously we're hopefully coming to the tail ends of things. At least we are in the UK, anyway. Of course, in other countries, it's still fully there, and it may continue for many years to come. Whatever your thoughts on on the COVID pandemic,
my thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's carrying on at the moment. Now, again, it's kind of being drip fed, and I don't believe it's going to make as big a waves as it should make. I think even if the acknowledgement is absolutely amazing, I think even if the information contained in that report is just clear 100% proof that something's going on. But we've already had that, yeah. So the Pentagon have already announced officially that they can't identify these objects in these videos yet.
Which, as you've said, is by rights it's not just an admission for those particular videos. It is a sweeping statement that unidentified flying objects exist.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they either exist or they don't exist. Yeah, something is either true or it's not. Yeah, you don't really. I mean, there's obviously some middle ground. It's a very, very complex subject. Yeah, and now a lot of UFOs that are seen, UAP, we want to call them that, UAP, unidentified area phenomena.
What is that? Unidentified area.
Unidentified aerial phenomena. That's the name that they've given it. The UAP task force. Yeah, which is what came on after ATIP.
I have my thoughts about that.
Yes.
So for years, people have been looking at UFOs. Everyone's focused on a UFO. Now they've rebadged it. They've renamed it. Yes. Almost. Is that because now they're ready to start drip feeding and giving us disclosure? There's just something in my mind saying they've rebadged that on purpose. They've called it something else on purpose.
They've specifically said why they've done that, and really the main reason is to get away from the stigma that the UFO subject has around it. Yeah. So they decide, we're not talking about little green men anymore. We're not talking about all that quirky stuff. Let's push that to one side. This is entirely new, and we're starting from the off with this. They're talking about the same things that are seen.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's so you can't blame them for never disclosing UFOs. Like, well, but UFOs are UFOs, but we're talking about UAPs now. Yes. And we've always admitted that they exist, but effectively it's the same thing.
I mean, if you look at that, I mean, obviously aerial is obviously the same, unidentified is exactly the same word. Now the phenomena thing is interesting. Okay, so phenomena, that could imply non-objects, so some kind of energy, ball of energy, so it could encompass things that are probably responsible for some of the things seen, because as I said, it's a very complex subject. I don't believe for 1 second that we're just dealing with just solid physical craft, that can land and crash, etc. I think that some UFOs seen are more metaphysical in nature, and there's all sorts of very, very interesting aspects to them that suggest multidimensionality, like the way that they can kind of come and go. Although obviously the physical items seem to be able to do that as well, but some of the cases on record seem to suggest kind of almost like that they're not even solid, that they're some kind of ball of energy. But it's controlling, it's performing maneuvers which show it's under intelligent control. And that's absolutely fascinating to think about that. I've always thought that possibly the reason they can perform those type of maneuvers is because they are kind of a form of energy that can almost alter its surroundings. And you hear about during abduction cases where people are actually taken through a solid ceiling or taken through a solid window, almost as if they can control the molecules and the atoms of solid structure and manipulate them so you can just go through them without breaking them. If they can do that, then they can do something to the air around them, which could mean they could move faster. Absolutely, the advanced capabilities we're seeing with, and this is certain aspects of the contact subject especially, is the reason why some researchers just shy away from the contact thing, because it's just too wild. Some of the elements are they're not you can't repeat study them. See what ATIP are trying to do. And the UAP task force now, as it's known. Okay, so what they're trying to do is they're trying to remain as scientific and as solid proof as they can. Yeah. Now, how do you do that? What you do is you look at things that can be backed up by radar. Yeah. So you've got physical confirmation from a pilot. So there's something there. It's not a radar malfunction. Yeah. They've also recorded the object on multiple radars and other sensors, performing incredible maneuvers. Yeah. Very, very, very hard to argue against that.
Yeah.
I would say when you've got those two things in tandem, where you've got the visual confirmation and it's recorded on sensors, how do you explain that? It's obvious that there is something there, and it's obvious it's not a malfunction, and it's performing very advanced capabilities. So they're trying to stick to that edge of things, and they haven't talked much about the abduction phenomena or animal mutilations or any of that. And that's because a lot of the information in those aspects is, of course, quite subjective, and it always will remain
it's
that way.
Subjective, and it's as you're saying, it moves away from the nuts and bolts,
It does,
and I think that there is still even when they do drip feed this disclosure, there's still going to be an area of cover up that does cover up this kind of I guess the paranormal side of it.
I don't think it's going to be touched on. What people are hoping for with this full disclosure thing with this report, I'd be very, very surprised.
I was going to say, what are your expectations of this report? What are you expecting?
What I expect to see is some other cases come forward, like the Nimitz case, and that's the case in 2004, that one of the 3 videos shows. Absolutely stunning case. It's without a doubt, one of the most incredible UFO incidents that's ever occurred. And it's a very good case. I expect to see more cases like that come forward, very likely with more camera footage to back them up, and radar recordings, etc. More proof, essentially, that these things are real. Now, that, as it has already, will probably fall on largely deaf ears. That will be partially due to the fact that the majority of the public remain to be very complacent towards this subject, and partially due to the lack of media coverage on it. As I say, just like first time around, expect a lot more coverage in the States than in other countries. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if many people, it comes and passes them by. Don't get me wrong, it will be in the British newspapers, etc. But if people, what's
it going to take though, Dave? Like we always say that they could never give us full disclosure because it would ruin religion, it would ruin science, the whole world would be up in arms. I mean, we were panic buying toilet paper a year ago. God knows what we'd be doing if they admitted aliens existed. So what would it take for people? That the Pentagon have admitted essentially that they exist. The videos are there; they're clear as day. Really good quality videos, as you've just mentioned. What's it going to take for the majority of people to sit up and go, hang on a minute, aliens exist?
Yeah. Well, it's either going to have to be, so from our side, it would have to be a wide-scale announcement from all our governments, a combined effort that said, okay, it's now time for the world to wake up to this. And all of our leaders would band together and essentially say there is no more questioning this. This is real. Yeah. But the trouble is with that is how far do they push it? They're not going to go into the darker elements of this subject.
No.
Because as you say, the amount of panic that would cause, it's just counterproductive to them. There's no way that they're going to announce that, because it's all well and good, these things flying around in the sky. Yeah. Most people, I would say, would be able to cope with that reality. Yeah, most people in the modern age. Yeah. So obviously we've looked into the vastness of space, and the majority of the public now believe that there are other advanced alien species out there in the vastness of space. Yeah, because it's just so big. Of course, that's it's the good old one. And I hear that response of people all the time. Oh, they've got to exist somewhere. This sort of response. Yeah. So there's a big difference between them existing somewhere and them reaching us before we've reached them. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can see the observations from the cases on record show that these beings are massively in advance. And I call them beings because that's what I believe they are. They're massively in advance of our current capabilities, of the military capabilities. Yeah, I do not feel that, and this would be backed up by the UAP task force, etc., that these are some kind of secret project. Yeah, they've looked into that argument, and of course, I'm not saying that there aren't cases on record where it is that. Yeah. There may well be black budget projects going on. There may well be advanced drones being flown from other countries, intercepting and checking out military bases, etc. Yeah, but the capabilities of these things, it's ridiculous. Take for example what happened with Nimitz. Yeah, one of the objects, they clocked it at 28,000 feet. It dropped to sea level in less than a second. the speed it was going at was 24,000 miles an hour. Yeah, that's 6 times the speed of sound. It would kill any living thing. It would actually break apart the actual object itself. This is what experts in the US Navy have confirmed. Yeah, it's not just me saying this; it's been confirmed.
Yeah,
the speed that thing's moving at is way beyond any. I find it very unlikely that another country has developed tech to that sort of level. And we're talking about things that don't have wings, don't have tails, etc. I mean, the Roosevelt case in 2015. This is where the other 2 videos come from. Yeah. So you've probably seen them. The fast-moving sphere. It looks like it's zipping along quite a pace. It's been checked out, and they believe it's going about 2/3 the speed of sound. So quite fast, not insanely fast, but pretty darn fast still.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you've got the other object that floats along against the wind, I might add, and then does that weird rotation thing. Yeah. Now this is trained observers are looking at this, and other people in the US Navy. Yeah. And they've said, we don't know what that is. That is really, really odd. Yeah. And it wasn't just that. There were with that particular incident, which is called Gimbal, the video, there were in actual fact a fleet of smaller objects. Now these smaller objects were in a V-shaped formation and were moving ahead of the large object, but they were off camera, so they didn't catch it. They were capturing the main object, but you hear them refer to it. They're talking about a fleet that they can see on the ASA. Okay, so there were other objects there that were also moving independently and performing intelligent maneuvers. Like at one point they turned around and went off the other direction. So these things were obviously under intelligent control. I mean, this is wild, yeah.
Why are they here though, Dave? And why are they? I believe they can choose to be seen and not to be seen, but that's conjecture.
Yes, oh, absolutely, yeah.
But you know, did the Navy see them as a threat? Are they looking at them as a threat?
Sort of. Yes and no. Okay, so a lot of the DoD. Department of Defense, are ignoring largely ignoring the videos and that sort of, playing them down. Yeah, right. They don't want to say, okay, we've got a problem here. Yeah, UAP Task Force, mind you, is saying absolutely you should look at this. These are obviously real objects performing now. They haven't performed anything offensive, not at least to their knowledge. There are some cases. If you go right back there, you probably find some cases where UFOs have apparently vaporized people, or I mean, you could say that if they abducted a pilot from a plane, then that in itself could be considered hostile. Yeah, but they might have been doing that in response to being intercepted by said jets. So, therefore, it's self-defense, isn't it? Now, most of the time, these objects perform defensively. Yeah, they'll just zip away. They'll get anywhere near them. That's why the videos are so distant. Yes, because when they tried to get closer to these objects, the objects would get out of there. Yeah, which is what happened with the Nimitz case. Yeah, they tried to intercept it and get closer to it, and away it goes. But yeah, I mean, with that, so they're obviously acting defensively, but it's still a threat because of 2 reasons. Firstly, they're in American-owned airspace. Okay, so and I'm talking specifically about these videos now, the Pentagon videos. Of course, you could look at cases from around a UK army base and say, okay, there's been UFOs around that. That's in our airspace. Absolutely. Let's talk about Rendlesham, for example. Yeah. In the Rendlesham area, that was controlled airspace around those bases, and these objects are appearing in them. So therefore, you could consider that a threat in a way, because they're ignoring but for all we know, they might not be aware of. I
was going to say they're ignoring restrictions placed by us. They're a different species. They're a different race. Might not know.
Yeah. So and then you've got the problem with mid-air collisions. Okay, so there've been a number of very, very close intercepts. We've had and some quite recently. Actually, there was one that came out, I believe, earlier this year. I think it was across in Mexico. Came out with some audio. So basically a missile-shaped object flew right past a commercial jet, really, really close to the cockpit. And they reported it, and you can actually listen to the radio of that online. That's been uploaded, the audio file of that. So it shows that these objects are sometimes coming in quite close proximity to planes. Now, how long is it going to be before they accidentally run into a Boeing and take out several hundred people?
But again, I mean, how do we know that hasn't happened before? When planes have crashed, we get told that they've crashed because an engine's gone out or whatever. How are we to know that hasn't happened before?
Absolutely. Obviously, these objects appear to possess great intelligence in terms of the flight capabilities and the way that they're moving. So therefore, you would say that they would be intentionally avoiding other jets, but we don't know. We're in realms of the unknown here. For all we know, they just might have been lucky to happen to be on a different flight path to them. And I mean, for all we know, the object could be so super powerful, it may just run straight through a jet and be absolutely completely unharmed. There's certainly cases on record where they've fired on these objects and there's seemingly no effect to them.
No.
That's happened numerous times, and that's us taking the offensive. That's us ordering pilots to shoot at these objects.
Yeah.
So we're very lucky in a way that they haven't switched to a more offensive stance after things like that have happened.
That we know of, though.
That we know of.
That we know of.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always what we know of. Yeah, and what we know is the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, because this is all going on. There's all this stuff that's kept completely away from the public eye regarding this. Not just what they know about this in the deep levels of the Pentagon. Yeah. And other places. Yeah. But also in terms of what incidents may have gone on or the cause for said incidents.
That's right, and I just want to kind of, for everybody watching, so Jenny says that my daughter thinks there's an Area 52 and they use 51 to distract you. Possibly, yeah. I mean, there are also places like Wright-Patterson Air Base, places like that that are thought to be places where things are going on while everybody focuses on Area 51.
Yeah, I think if there was any alien tech at Area 51 in the past, it would have logically been moved off elsewhere by now.
Yeah, of course, It's a bit too obvious now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's where everybody goes, isn't it? I mean, if you go back a number of years, people didn't know the base even existed. They denied it actually existed until they started getting aerial photos. It's like, what's that then? So obviously, it's a very, very highly securitized base. Obviously, there are things that go on out there. I've seen many UFO reports from the area around Area 51 of objects performing maneuvers above the base and in the surrounding areas. Now, the question is, are those objects purposely flown out from the base, or are they other objects intercepting the base and taking
visiting the base?
Because what we're seeing again and again is that they're looking in on our military forces, or appear to be. I say appear to be, because I deal with cases from around Birmingham, and I've dealt with lots and lots of cases from around the Birmingham area. If I put them all back to back in a big file and send it to somebody, people would be like, "Wow, Birmingham's a major hotspot." No, it's not. It's not at all. It's just because I'm a dedicated researcher who happens to be in the Birmingham area, so I get lots of cases in. If I lived in Stratford-upon-Avon, I'd probably make it look like Stratford. It'd probably look like Stratford-upon-Avon was a hotspot.
But also, of course, the media and the not necessarily the hardcore researchers like yourself, but the people that kind of dip a toe in every now and then. Everybody's heard of Area 51, so it gets a bit of a reputation. But no one would associate Birmingham with being a UFO hotspot. So there's that side of things as well. Yes. For the people watching, Dave is the chairman of BUFOG, which is the Birmingham UFO group, and has spent many a year investigating, I guess I could say, thousands of cases, not only around Birmingham area, but UK and around the world. And he's got a bit of a recent case he's going to share with us now. I'm right in saying this is an exclusive, so this will be the first time this has been told.
It's the first time it's gone out on video, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Great. So that's really good. So for the people watching, you're about to hear a recent exclusive. So tell us all about it, Dave.
Okay. So this is the incident happened in 1989. So it's not a brand new incident. It's a historic case. Yeah.
Very good year. I was born.
Brilliant. There we go. Are the two connected? Well, we'll never know. So. Okay, so it's July 1989 this incident took place. And what happened is this is a military case. It's from Greece. It's from an Air Force base on the east coast of Greece. Now, I can't reveal the exact name of the air base. There are a number of air bases, and I've been told to not mention the exact name. The individual who came forward is an ex-aircraft mechanic, and he confirmed to me, this is quite recent, a number of weeks ago, we looked into this in depth, after I gained his trust, because it took a while to gain his trust, because obviously some people out there would just take it and just splash all the details of his name everywhere and that sort of thing, and that's not what I'm about, as you know. So I, after I gained his trust and promised not to reveal anything he wouldn't, purposely allow, we started to talk about the incident. So back in July 1989, he's on this air base with his squadron. So there's 12 people himself included. So himself and 3 other mechanics. There's 3 weapons experts and 4 weapons checkers and 4 pilots. Okay, that makes up the squadron. And what they were part of is an exercise where they would essentially pretend they were an enemy force, and they would take off and pretend they were an enemy force, and then the base would react to that. So they were on standby all the time to take off from the jets at the runway. And they were situated in a building at the west end of the base, just at the end of one of the main runways of the base. most of the time they just hang around. They have walkie-talkies on them and everything, and if they got called to get sent up to do the exercise, they go and do it. And they'd regularly repeat. The mechanics would regularly go on a cycle to check the planes to ensure that they had fuel in, etc., and that there were no damage to the jets or anything. So it got about midnight on I think it was a Saturday, I think in July 1989. It was a very clear night, and the individual he just stepped outside, just checked over the jets, and they were fine. And he was just doing the transfer to the next mechanic. So he goes and hands over the roll. Then he steps back outside just to stretch his legs, yeah. And as he leans back, he happens to look up into the sky. About 500 meters away to the east of him, roughly over the center of the airbase, halfway along the main runway, he sees what looks like 3 dim red lights in a triangular shape. An equilateral triangle, and he's looking at them, and he's thinking, "What on earth is that?" And there's no sound coming from it at all, and it certainly appears to be 3 lights inside one solid object, as opposed to 3 smaller objects in tight formation. So he goes and gets his squadron, and they all come out, and they're all checking out. Don't forget, these are experienced Air Force personnel here. They know what aircraft and helicopters look like after dark at all distances. Okay, so they're all looking at this, and it's there for about 10 minutes goes by, and they're staring at it. They don't, because it's quite far away. Obviously, 500 meters is quite a distance, and they're to remain at the end of this. So they don't start walking along the runway to get closer to it. They're looking at it kind of like almost like a diagonal, and they can't really identify it, and it's just hovering there, completely motionless, without making a sound. And they think, what on earth is this? Yeah. After about 10 minutes, all of a sudden, bang, away it goes. Yeah, shoots away to the east like a bullet. They all watched it go. It wasn't like it just vanished. It didn't vanish. It went. Instant acceleration. He said there was a sound that came from it, but the sound was of the whoosh of air. It wasn't from the object itself. It was just a whooshing noise of air moving around the object as it left. And it shot away to the east and was gone to the horizon in less than a second. And obviously they were all like, wow, what have we just seen? Yeah. So immediately he thinks, okay, the base is going to have detected this on the radars, aren't they? They're going to know about this, and they're going to send us up to intercept whatever this thing is. So he's expecting alarms to just start going off and their walkie-talkies to start off. Nothing happens yet. There's nothing. They don't get any contact off anybody. So okay, so they go back inside their building, and they're there until sort of early hours of the morning, and they finish their shift. At which point they hand over to another entire squadron. So they go back to their barracks and go to sleep for a number of hours. When they wake up, so later in the following day now, they are called down to their commander's office. Him and his squadron they go there, and the commanders say to them, we're aware that you saw something last night, and what it was is we were doing training exercises, and what you saw was something like an AWACS aircraft. That's what he said. So an AWACS aircraft, for those who don't know, is one of these planes with a massive round radar dish stuck to the top of it. Yeah. And he claimed that the commanders claimed it was this, which is, of course, absolutely ridiculous, yeah, because 1, the lights didn't match. 2, it was floating, hovering, motionless, not flying like a plane would fly. 3, it made absolutely no sound at all. 4, it shot away at an incredible rate of knots. Nothing with the sighting fitted in with that explanation. It was immediately obvious to him and his squadron that this was that there was a cover-up going on regarding what the object actually was. They were also told at that point not to talk about it with anybody, which is why it's remained secret for so long, and why it's such a kind of controversial case, and that's why I'm having to leave some of the details out.
Of course, yeah. Did he just want to touch on a few of the details he gave?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
For those watching, that noise you can hear in the background are my frogs, and it's mating season, so they're a bit horny. It's as it gets warmer as well. They go mad. So I'll mute while you're talking, Dave, so it doesn't interrupt you. But yeah, I think. For me, the fact that it flies off, did he describe a reason as to why that would happen? Like, did he notice that it was disturbed? Did you feel like it was there observing, like there seems to be around the military bases?
There was no warning it was going to go when it went. It was just there hovering motionless, and then it went. Yeah. So obviously that massive instant acceleration immediately puts out the question that this was some kind of balloon or something with lights attached, obviously. And obviously it wasn't a helicopter either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all mundane explanations, can be completely discounted regarding this case, I'd imagine. I can't think of one mundane explanation that would describe that. And we're talking about an entire squadron of trained observers who see this object. It's not like a random everyday layperson, who may mistake, for example, a launch of several Chinese lanterns. It wasn't that.
But the fact that they're told don't discuss it with anyone, that's instant cover-up material, isn't it? That's it. By the way, it's not a UFO. It's something completely explainable, but don't tell anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And this happens a lot. This happens all the time. Yeah. So when you speak with military witnesses, you find out this happens all the time. Yeah. By standard, most of the time, when they report something on base, it's completely covered up. It gets sent away to God knows where. Somebody's collecting this information. Yeah. And somebody's even collecting it from the military themselves, And this is where you get evidence of the higher up cover up that's going on with this, which is very, very real, It's crazy because it sounds like the state, it sounds like X-Files and everything, doesn't it? There's this big conspiracy going on. This is happening. This is absolutely happening.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a great example of that. So if we return to the videos we talked about earlier on, with the Roosevelt incident in 2015. So they had these videos came out and everything. What they were seeing for a period of months were up to 100 of these objects flying around the naval cruisers out there on the east coast of the United States. They followed them for a number of months, These objects were sometimes in the air for hours at a time, like all day they'd see them hanging around. Some of the objects were like nothing I've ever come across in my cases before. The smaller ones they described as clear spheres with black cubes inside. It's just wild.
But I mean, that doesn't even look like that doesn't even sound like a craft that someone could sit in and drive,
exactly,
or fly.
Nor does it sound like some kind of form of drone. If it was a drone, you'd expect it to kind of at least have some kind of rotor blades or something on. I mean, I can't even begin to explain why they would look like that, but that's what these things look like. Anyway, black cubes with clear spheres around them. I mean, we're to the realms of the unknown here.
And you talk about, that they saw them there all day, they tracked them for months. This isn't just this. Like I'm trying to understand this. Like this is kind of a statement and kind of a question. If with this disclosure that's slowly coming out now and these naval videos that they've released and stuff, is this happening all the time?
It's happening a lot more than people want to admit it.
So because I don't want people to think that it's a one-off or it only speaks.
No. This is definitely not a one-off. So some of these incidents, some of these other incidents may come out, And Chris Mellon, who's part of the UAP task forces, has alluded to some of these other cases, He's talked about a case from where they tracked an object coming down from Iceland right down the US before it went off over the sea. These things are happening far more regularly. As I say, we've just seen the tip of the iceberg here. These few videos, they've got other ones. They've alluded to having other ones, closer ones. Now, whether they come out or not, I don't know. There's been talk from certain parties that there's a clear photograph of a flying triangle craft alongside a jet that numerous people have apparently alluded to seeing. And we don't know whether this is 100% true yet, nor do we know whether this is definitely going to come out in the report. But numerous people of trusted backgrounds have alluded to being shown this photograph that apparently is of a black triangular craft with 3 lights in the base of it, classic FT, filmed from a jet, not in the distance like the Nimitz video or anything, not close and personal. So,
but again, these things that they're releasing, they're obviously choosing to release these. So Christ knows what they're not releasing. You know, I can only imagine what.
Yeah, but they were kind of forced into releasing in a way. I think that they would have.
Yeah, no, I get
Yeah.
that, but you know, if you talk about like the X-Files and stuff, you know, and
Yes.
and that I do believe they're cherry picking particular things to show you. Can you imagine what's hiding in the vault of evidence?
Well, oh yeah, so we go back to where the reason why I returned to this case here. So I returned to Roosevelt, didn't I? Okay, so it's 2015. Well, it went from late 2014 to about March 2015. A long period of time. Numerous pilots reported. Some pilots saw multiple times this sort of thing, and some of them they got on video. There's other videos that exist from that incident that haven't come to light, but those two are from there. They've been confirmed. They're both from early 2015, filmed off the East Coast, close to Jacksonville, Florida, off the coast of there. Okay, so what happened with this? So the cover up. Okay, so people think at a low level, we think the military is covering this up. The US Navy is covering this up from us. Yeah, they're the ones doing the cover up. They're the ones who have all the answers. No. It goes way higher than that. So what happened is they lost their data. They lost the information they had on the radars of these objects here. This has been confirmed here. They actually had all the radar data of these objects that they were tracking. And, they had all this information and they went looking for it. And lo and behold, it had vanished. And shortly before it vanished, a helicopter landed and they believe that the people in that helicopter took away that data. Where to? We don't know. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
There are groups working out there right now, that are above the standard military groups.
Well, that's the X-Files. I mean, we talk about X-Files and Project Blue Book and all
this
that.
Is true proof of that. This is real proof of that. It's proof that this cover-up goes multiple levels. Yeah, it goes deeper than people sometimes give it credit for. Now, this has been going on since forever. Yeah, if I go right back to my childhood, mid-teens. Okay, so I start looking into UFO subjects. I start going to conferences in my mid-teens. I remember one of the first conferences I ever went to. They had the transcript. It was from a UFO show that'd been on United Kingdom television. I think that's Stanton Friedman and a number of other famous ufologists, talking about stuff. Now, what they got for the Freedom of Information Act, they managed to get hold of the transcript for this program, and at the top right was a list of the addresses that this transcript had been sent to, and it included our own government, the House of Parliament, the MOD. It included American CIA, the Pentagon, the White House. It included other companies who nobody even knew what they were, unknown agencies. Now, why on earth would the White House?
So what you're saying is that the White House have had to have requested to be made aware that this program was going on air, and they wanted to know what it was about.
Yeah. So if people say to me, "There's no UFO cover-up, it doesn't exist," I'm like, "Yes, it does."
Well, clearly. I mean, I don't think the White House. The White House don't request the script for Coronation Street or something. Do that? They're obviously keeping tabs on it for some particular reason,
and they're keeping tabs on it to make sure that people don't talk about the wrong stuff. Yeah. Now, in most cases, they don't mind getting out into the public eye.
But if that's the case, then do you think that some of what we see is misinformation? So everyone's focusing on and maybe some researchers are put in there as misinformation agents.
I think that's everyone's very believable indeed.
Yeah, so people are watching these programs going, "Oh, yeah, that could be the case," but what's really going on would never be.
Yeah, and I don't use your name drop, but the famous debunker Philip Klass, they looked into that he was trying to debunk the Travis Walton abduction case across in the States to the point that he was offering large sums of money to the witnesses to lie about it. I mean, you have to ask, why would anybody do that, unless they had some ulterior motive?
It screams misinformation, doesn't it?
Why would you shut that down? Why would you be willing to give somebody thousands of pounds? We're talking thousands of dollars they were offered, to lie about the case, to basically mislead people around that case, So that tells you straight away that case is legitimate, or at least parts of it are legitimate. They didn't want to get out, But secondly, when they looked into his background, they found that he had connections with MI6 and things in the background. I mean, it implied, it wasn't definite proof, but it implied that he could have been working, behind the scenes for the Secret Services and purposely put there to discredit UFO cases.
And I think that happens. I think that happens not just in in the UFO field. I think it happens in all walks of life.
Yes.
I think we've got we got 20 minutes left. So,
Yeah.
Do you want to spend the next 10 minutes or so? You've quite exciting. I think it is. You've got a game coming out, so you've dedicated the last year or so of your life to creating a game, to get it's manufactured. You're starting to advertise it now. It's ready to come out rather soon. I know you've got it there ready to show some people. It's a card-based game. It's called UFO Wave. Tell us all about it.
Sure, yeah. So I've actually been working on this behind the scenes for longer than that. I've been working on it about 5 years now. Believe it or not.
Oh wow, bloody hell! Yeah, sorry, I did you a disservice there.
And not full on all the time, just on and off and that sort of thing. It's a lot goes on with the process. So essentially, if I go back to about 5 years ago, I've got a big interest, a big avid card and board gamer, as well as a UFO investigator. So I wanted to combine those two interests. And so there's all sorts of games out there that have the theme of aliens. It's used all the time. It's classic, yeah. So it's used as often as, like, say, the Wild West or ninjas or whatever, yeah. But we're talking about just classic Mars Attacks type stuff here: flying saucers, little green men, laser guns, etc. Yeah, there are very few games really dedicated to the UFO subject to a great level, and that's what I wanted to do. Yeah, and this is where the concept for UFO Wave came into existence. Now, I had the choice between taking it down a kind of very serious route or a more kind of fun, family-friendly sort of route, and I opted for the latter. And one of the reasons I did that, first of all, I got a bit of a sense of humour, so I kind of enjoyed it for that. And secondly, I wanted to make it more accessible. I wanted to make it accessible for not only people who had an interest in the UFO subject, but also other people who are gamers and might not necessarily have looked into UFOs that much. I've also got a 10-year-old daughter, and I wanted her to kind of get into the game and enjoy it as well. So I decided from the off it would be a kind of family-friendly. It's made for age 8 and up. So over a number of years, I went through lots of different versions. Yeah, once I'd settled on it going down a kind of fun route, decided I wanted kind of cartoony type of artwork for it. Now, the artist, this is an incredible story regarding the artist. I go back like over 20 years, and I'm at university, right? And I remember seeing his art online on Google. This is like the early days, This is just like where YouTube and that were just starting up, this sort of thing. And I remember coming across his art online and thinking, this guy really knows his stuff. The stuff he was drawing in these pictures showed me he had a very big knowledge of the subject. Didn't know who he was or anything. It was just some cool art pieces. I thought they're really well done. Anyway, so we go forward to 5 years ago. I decided I'm going to get the art for the game done. I immediately think of this guy. I wonder if I could track him down. I have no idea who he is. So I go looking around online. That's an extensive internet search. I finally come across one of his art pieces, and lo and behold, I got a partial signature at the bottom. I'm like, oh, come on, this is going somewhere. So again, I look around online with this partial signature, and eventually I track the guy down here. And it turned out he was an active artist still. So I was like, brilliant. He lives in New York, and I got in touch, similar to how we're doing right here. I had a chat with him, and I found out then that he'd had contact experiences since childhood, and that's why he had such an interest in the subject, because he'd had experiences himself. And so that was, even then, I was set then, definitely. I was like, yeah, I want this guy to do the art for the game big time.
Does that also show that his artwork is it based on some of the experiences that he had?
Well, you say that. He's actually drawn for me. It's in the instruction manual of the game. He's actually drawn the craft he saw as a child, and everything is a new picture for me to include in there. But yeah, definitely the themes of some of the things that have happened to him are in there, but also just general interest. So anyway, I went over it with him, went over the idea. He said, oh, amazing. He was more than happy to get involved. He's never done artwork for a game before. So then it went through a phase where I was trying out different styles of games. What would I settle with? Yeah. And it went through about 5 different versions. And every time I was kind of like, it's good, but not all it can be. And I also didn't want it to be too similar to another game, because I didn't want people to think out there that I'd just taken another game and put like a UFO skin on it and there's your new game. I wanted it to be genuinely different from other games. So after about 5 or 6 different versions, I finally settled on the end thing. My friends are like, are you ever going to bring this out, David? I was like, in the end, we'll get there with it. So yeah, so eventually we settled on it, and I got the artist to do the art in advance. A lot of people leave the artwork and pay the artist only after the game's been funded. Me, I decided to do it in advance because I wanted people to see it from the off, everything it could be. And eventually we settled with a number of prototypes. I've got one of the prototypes right here to show you of UFO Wave. So I'm going to bring that in there. There is the box art, the front box art for UFO Wave, the tactical card game of Alien Supremacy. And you can see there on the front, we've got all our different species. So these are the main species that you can play in the game, and you'll see in there we've got greys, reptilians, the Nordics, mantids. We've even got the hybrids.
You beat me to it there. I wanted to see how many I could guess, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Okay, so these are the two chaps. So we got there's one in the centre.
Don't know, because he kind of looks like a grey.
Yeah, that's a hybrid. So he's actually got hair like a human, and that's why he's in a helmet.
Yeah.
And then at the back,
the shadowy hooded figure.
Yeah.
Mate, I would have guessed there. I'd have got grey, reptilian, and Nordic.
Yeah.
I don't know about the hooded figure.
So the hooded figure feeds into the paranormal aspect of the subject, which I know you'll be very interested in. So it's a shadow being.
I was going to say a shadow man, but then I thought, does that really relate to UFOs?
But it does, because in most contact cases, people also have paranormal experiences. And
of course.
And I wanted to show that link between the subject to contact and itself. Got shadow beings in there as a species.
And you've got the men in black I see there crouching.
Yeah, there's a man in black down there in the corner. We've got the military on the other side. Yeah. And then the different craft types in the game. We've got a flying triangle, a cigar, and a saucer across there. So, you can see even from that front box art. But, we're just getting started. It's a competitive card game for 1 to 6 players. In the game, I decided that you would play as an alien species, so you actually take on the role of the Greys or the Nordics or whoever. And you're fighting against other aliens, and you're competing for resources. And you've got a line of cards that's on the center of the table called the scan, and that represents what you can all see from your craft windows, both in the air and on the ground. There's activities to claim on that, so activities to perform like abductions, crop formations, etc. I've even included the mutilation subject that is in. I was
just going to ask that, because that's quite a dark subject.
It is, and this is as dark as I wanted to get with the game. Now, of course, the game's family friendly. It's designed to be family friendly, but it would have been wrong to leave out the mutilation subject. So it's called Harvest in the game, and it's the card art just has a picture of a dead cow lying there with cross eyes. It's very, very inoffensive. We're talking like Tom and Jerry level offense. Obviously, I didn't want to show any gore or anything like that.
It didn't have the ripped out anus or anything like that. No. Just the cross on the eyes. Okay,
exactly. Yeah, I kept things. Because I wanted it to be family friendly, of course. But it had to be in there. It had to be. So you've got these activities you can perform, but you've also got humans on the scan, including the men in black and the military, sky watchers, this sort of thing. They're out there, and they're essentially guarding the activity. So if they're alongside an activity and you try and claim that activity, then you also have to take that human. They spot you and start watching you instead. So then they end up coming and sitting in front of you. Now, they usually have negative effects on you. There is one positive human. We've got believers in there. And if you get believers, it's actually a positive effect. So you're actually trying to get believers to sit in front of you. But most of them are negative and will affect your score, this sort of thing. Then you've got energy. So there's essentially pockets of energy up in the air. And if you perform stuff nearby, like if you claim an activity, then again, if there's energy next to it, you'll also absorb that. And some of the energy is good and some of it's bad. Some of it can have, maybe take off a couple of points off your score or get you to lose a card or whatever, and this sort of thing. So you'll be trying to get near the positive energy pockets and avoid the negative ones. There's a complexity comes in with the humans, and that you can lead humans to other players. So if you want to, instead of doing activity on your turn, you can lead a human that's on the scan to another player. So you're basically getting their craft and over there, go and watch them. And you basically just send them the bad card from the off. Then you've got your plan cards. These are the cards you hold in your hand. There's 2 different types of cards. There's powers and there's craft cards. Powers are essentially your different abilities, your alien abilities to do different things.
So is that things like, do you bring in things like the being able to move around fast?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all in there. I've got also, let me see if we can find some examples a second. Okay, so there's one straight away. Okay, so we've got a dimensional shift. That's one of the power cards there. So you can see down the bottom, we've got 2 alien faces, a green one and a red one there. The green one is your basic effect, and the red one is an advanced effect. Now, when you play the power by itself, the basic effect is what happens. Yeah, when you play it. With this one, you discard a card off the scan and then redraw. So essentially, you're changing the scan line. So let's say there's a human there that you don't want. You want to get the activities next to him. You could use this card and get rid of it entirely. Now, at advanced level, you can actually discard a, I don't know if it's probably a bit blurry, discard an opponent's claimed card at random. So essentially, if they've claimed activities earlier in the game, some of which might be high-scoring activities, you could actually use that to discard one of their claimed cards.
I like that because by using the word dimension, you're changing your surroundings. You're getting rid of cards. You're altering the dimension around you. I like that.
So then we've got a hotspot as another one. So for the hotspot card, it allows you to claim more than one activity of the same type in a turn, because usually you can only take one. But this one, at basic level, if there's two, let's say there's two abductions and they're alongside each other, you can play that and get both those abduction cards in one turn. At advanced level, you can get any two. And you're probably thinking, how do I activate advanced? Well, that's where the craft come in. So the craft cards essentially will change something from a basic level to an advanced level. So there's a craft 5 triangle. So you play them alongside the power cards to change the cards into advanced. But that's not the only thing that these craft can do. Yeah, they've got more than one different usage. The other usage of craft is if you pair them up, like if you get a couple of flying triangles, you can use them to discard humans who are watching you. So let's say a man in black spotted you and you want to get rid of him. You can use 2 flying triangles and discard him, or 2 of any other craft type. So that's there's one more type in the scan that comes out. That's events. Events are one-off incidents that happen and affect all players. And again, they focus on aspects of the subject. Like we've got a UFO crash in there, for example, as one of them. And that comes out. Everybody has to discard a craft card. And this sort of thing. We've got body markings in there. There's all sorts. I'm covering all sorts of aspects of the concept and UFO subject.
I was just going to say that it seems to, for someone who even just has a very kind of soft approach to UFOs, it would cover stuff that even they would be aware of. You don't have to be the hardcorest of researchers to understand.
No, I've tried to keep things, very accessible. Yeah,
and your passion for it is coming through massively. You're obviously very excited. When do you have a date yet as to when we can buy it?
So what's happening with this is I'm not made of money. I've never made any money off the UFO subject or anything, and nor do I intend to. Sorry, just while we're on that, there's the manual. It's themed like a top secret government.
Oh, like that, yeah.
And this guy up here is our mascot. Bob is our alien mascot, and I've got something else to show you. So this is it's a plushie I had made up of Bob specially, our alien mascot. Did you use your hair to as a style there? Yeah, you can see there. Yeah, exactly the same. I got Bob specially made. It actually cost me £150, believe it or not, to get made individually. Because plushies, unless you buy them in bulk, the price drops off. Yeah. Now, exactly the same thing applies to that, which is why I can't make the copies without help. So what I've decided to do is take it down the route known as Kickstarter. Kickstarter is a crowdfunding website. And what happens with Kickstarter is at launch, at a set period of time that I state, it goes live on Kickstarter. During that time, people can back the game. Yeah, it's essentially buying it in advance. Okay, but it's highly protected. Yeah, so essentially you would back the product. At the end of launch, if enough people have backed it after that launch period, then it can be made. It's reached its funding goal, and we can get it made. And then over the next 2 or 3 months, planning to get it out to people by Christmas time. By the way, so if you wanted to get it for somebody as a Christmas gift, we're aiming to get it out by Christmas. But essentially, I would then contact the manufacturer who have arranged. I will say we've been successful with the Kickstarter. They will then go and make however many copies I can make off the money that's come in, and then they will send them in bulk, and they will get shipped out. We're shipping worldwide with this, so you don't have, if you're living in America or whatever, it's not a problem.
And what's the price bracket for this?
So
do you have that?
Yeah. So we've got 2 different prices. Well, there's numerous different prices, but this brings me on to the other aspect of UFO Wave, which is the playmat. So the playmat's pretty darn big. Okay, so that's the playmat for UFO Wave. You can see at the top, we've got the scan and plan decks there.
Yep.
Underneath that's that line I was talking about, the scan line that goes on there. Now, if you have a look up close, there's all sorts of alien imagery and stuff.
As I say, you've got the hieroglyphics and
loads of stuff in there to see. Now, with that, it's not entirely. You can play the game completely without the need for the playmat, but it looks real swish with the playmat under the cards. So we've got different options. You can buy the game by itself, or you can buy it with a playmat, and then if you get like multiple ones, you'll get discounts to this sort of thing. There's also a very, very high level goal, very, very expensive one, which allows you to actually put a customized message printed on the front of the box, but it's insanely expensive. But if that's
your Kickstarter thing, is that happening? Is this like if the listeners or the watchers of this, if they want to go and kind of help fund the game, is there somewhere they can go now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there is. Yeah. So, you just mentioned the price. So, essentially, it's going to be roughly about £20. We haven't yet decided exact. It's chopping and changing. It depends on shipping, this sort of thing. So, about £20 for the game by itself. The game with the playmat will be about £35. And then you can get some multiple copies that'll give you bits of discounts. So I've tried to keep the price reasonable, but expensive enough so that we actually reach our funding goal. Like if I could, I'd give it to everybody for free. But what would happen is I wouldn't have any money to actually make the thing in the first place. So it wouldn't happen. This whole project for me is never in the same way as my UFO research. It's not a money-making exercise. It never has been for me. It's a labour of love. I just felt that I wanted to make a UFO-themed card game, so I'm going for it. And if I never got to this stage, it would have just remained an idea in my head and something I would have regretted never attempting. So what's going on with the Kickstarter? At the moment, the Kickstarter preview page is up. Okay, you can get to the Kickstarter preview page. It's quite a long title. I'm going to give you the exact URL for it, but there's a link to the Kickstarter page from our main website. Okay, which I'll give you in just a minute. So the Kickstarter page at the moment is just the preview page. You just go there, you'll see the box art and a little blurb, and that's it. But there is a notify button on there that people can click, and that will allow you to get official notifications from Kickstarter. Now, I highly recommend people do this for multiple reasons. Okay, first of all, you'll be kept up to date with official things coming out from the actual launch itself. Secondly, we've got early bird rewards. Initial backers of the game are going to get a discounted price. So if you get in there quick on launch day, you'll get it for a cheaper price than everybody else who backs it. So if you're notified, you'll get through the email as soon as it launches and that sort of thing. So you can keep an eye on that. We'll be announcing the exact launch time and everything. I can give you the launch date now. The launch date is going to be the 30th of July. It's a Friday. The launch is going to go for 30 days from 30th of July. Now, the reason for that odd date, the reason why it's a Friday, is that we've managed to secure a stand at the UK Games Expo, which is the UK's biggest tabletop gaming convention. It's taking place at the NEC in Birmingham, quite close to where I live, which is really convenient. Now, I've been to the expo for many years as a gamer, and it's really cool to actually be there and actually have a stand at the thing. So we brought forward the launch of the game to coincide with that. So when people see us at the expo, they'll be able to back the game directly after trying it out. If you're not coming to the expo, you can still try the game. There's another way of trying the game in advance as well. What I've done is because of the lockdown, it was very difficult to get it out to gaming shops and that sort of thing. I wanted to play test it with people, but I wasn't allowed yet. So instead, what I did was create a virtual version of the game in something called Tabletop Simulator. And what Tabletop Simulator is a piece of software that's available through Steam. It costs about £15 to buy, but once you've got it, there's like all sorts of board and card games inside it that you can play virtual versions of, and it's really, really good. The UI is really slick in there. Now, I created a virtual version of UFO Wave in that. So, and it's on there now, so you can search for it and try out the game, just with your friends or with other random people in there.
That's a good idea because
just trying to get feedback.
Try before you buy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm confident that the game is good. We're getting lots of different reviews in now. I've sent out numerous prototypes around the UK, the States, Canada, and also other countries in due course. There's one across in Ireland at the moment as well. The response so far has been overwhelmingly positive, and this is coming from independent people who've got no need to push the game. They're all saying they're absolutely loving it. One of the things I love about it is the mechanics, because the mechanics are very, very different. They're very unusual, if not entirely unique, in the world of card gaming. And secondly, they're loving the authenticity of it and the fact that it's been created by myself and the artwork and everything.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's fantastic what you've done, and obviously I'll be buying it when it comes out, and I'll be backing it on your campaign. And
Thank you.
I hope other people do. We've got roughly a minute left now.
Yeah, let me just grab 1 second. Let me just give the official thing for UFO Web a second before we move on. So the main website, which is where you want to head on there, you'll find all sorts of videos. There's already a live merchandise store on there. So if you like the artwork, you can already get a T-shirt with the art on if you want to from there. It's just designed as a way of getting the game out. It's www.ufowavegame.com. That's the address.
Okay.
We couldn't get ufowave.com. It was taken.
Right.
So I had to go into it. On there is all the links you'll need. The social media links. We've got a UFO Wave community page on Facebook going. We've got a very active Instagram account, UFO Wave Game, at UFO Wave Game. All of these ways are ways you can get in touch, whatever social media you use. You can also subscribe to the website to get regular blog updates, and we're posting regular pictures and videos and all sorts going on with it. So yeah,
Brilliant.
get involved
and just before we go,
yes.
BUFOG obviously is your first passion. It's your firstborn. Yep. When is that going to start up again? Because I know there's people watching this who might be interested in coming to an actual meeting to hear about UFO stuff.
Yeah. Well, BUFOG for me is always it's a long-term thing for me. Yeah, BUFOG is what BUFOG is. It will keep going. Yeah. So yeah, we will. We've surmounted the odds. The function room where in Albury, I've been informed from about a month from now or something is going to reopen for functions. So we don't need to shift venues. We're going to be back there again in Albury. Now, I'm delaying things a bit for the launch till probably September time. That's because of the game. The game is taking up a severe amount of my time at the moment. With a launch period in the run up to launch in July, I'll be pushing it as much as possible. August is obviously live, so again, I have to be very, very on the ball with that. After that, after things settle down, hopefully I'll reach this funding goal and I'll be making copies and getting them out to people. But at the same time, I then have time to dedicate to getting BUFOG up and running. Now, BUFOG will only become if there's enough people on board with it. Yes, I'll be putting out votes online, etc., to try to gain interest. I'll also be doing another advertisement in the Birmingham paper. To draw attention.
I'm confident, Dave, that it will start. You've got a loyal group of people that go regularly, myself included. I've got no question that it'll be back up and running.
Yeah, I mean, we've got our venue and and the speakers to pay for. One of the joys about BUFOG is having speakers come and talk from around the UK and also abroad sometimes. And obviously those speakers usually need paying. So it's only going to work if people are willing to turn up to the meetings. So people often think that I'm BUFOG, but I'm not BUFOG. Yeah, BUFOG is everybody who turns up to BUFOG. We're a collective, and if people don't show up for it, obviously won't earn enough money to run it. But I'll definitely be doing all I can to push it and get it up and running before the year's out. Definitely, looking at probably September, October, the latest.
That's brilliant. For those watching, if you're local to the Birmingham area or the Black Country area, really, just keep an eye out for BUFOG and come along to the meetings because they're great. Welcome. They're great nights. Lovely bunch of people that tend to go. Listen, Dave, thank you very much for coming on. It's been great. Really enjoyed it as always. And we'll catch up soon, no doubt.
Yes, absolutely. Excellent. Yeah.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. See you later.
See you.
Bye. And to everybody watching, thank you for tuning in. I'm working on a show coming up, probably going to be about Paul McCartney and the fact that Paul McCartney isn't actually Paul McCartney. And it's just going to take a bit of time to get that evidence collated and stuff. But when I get it, hopefully it'll be good. And I've also got a guy coming on who talks about the schooling system and how it's actually bad for children, which will be an interesting show as well. So thank you all for tuning in as always. We'll be back to our normal Monday show, a week Monday, hopefully with Paul McCartney, but we'll see. But until next time, take care, guys. See you soon.